Just responding to a comment today. It's a pretty slow day. Here we go. Now, I'm going to dismantle this. You already know that. I'll probably just make it the entire title. And it'll be short, hopefully. And the rest of the video will be about some cool things I found on the internet that are not really on topic. There's a joke here. So, now, everything that WAPTech can't see on YouTube is unproven. Tell me, what remarkable things have you done that do not appear on YouTube? Now, obviously this must be on topic, right? No, I made a video explaining that you could use metal tubing of various types to test whether or not they change diameter, split, get damaged, fail entirely if you're using them for various things. Air pressure, shotgun barrels, water. You can test materials to destruction safely. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to test them. And no one would have. To find out what the real pressure rating is. Because looking at it saying it's Schedule 80 versus Schedule 5 for a 3/4 inch pipe, you can get an estimate of what it's supposed to do. And you might even find a manufacturer that tells you what it'll do by some arbitrary measurement. But in your particular purpose, is it fit for purpose? You have to test it to destruction. And I was bringing up the good example of a shotgun barrel. Yes, you can get 3/4 inch pipe. Yes, you can get 3/4 inch pipe that's a millimeter thick or several millimeters thick. Yes, you can get it exactly fitting the shotgun shell or kind of fitting it or being a little too small to where you have to drill it out. But what will it do when you actually fucking test it? And then I describe in that video, probably in others definitely, how you dig a hole in the ground that points straight down, drop the thing into where it's way below dirt level, rig it up to where you can actually test it for real, a real live test, and you test it until it gets destroyed. Not test it to prove it works, test to show when it fails. And also make sure that you cover the hole with sandbags and steel plates and plywood. It's a pretty simple explanation of how you test these things instead of just reading on some stupid listing and hoping that they got it right when they tested it, when there's always going to be a failure mode. 99.99% perfect just means that you got one part in 1,000 where it blows up in your face or just shoots your hands off, or maybe your eye out. And I also explained that you can, in most of my videos, it may not have in that one, you can go out and buy a shotgun for $100 or less and do it right. You can also find a company that actually lists tested PSI rating, tested rating for pressure, sudden and non-sudden, instantaneous or transient pressures. When you buy electronics, electrical equipment, parts, it'll have a, breaking amps or stall current, or how many watts can this take at a surge. You better look up that information if you're trying to make something and not have it go to hell on you. What's the maximum lifespan of it? Water pipe and water tubing are different. Tubing will actually tell you these things, and it's usually seamless, and it's usually to exact specifications of some kind. For instance, 1-inch tubing, like all tubing, is based on the outside diameter, because that's how you make the little fittings for it, at least normally. Some of the tubing types or some of the materials are based on the inner diameter, but almost all of it's outer diameter. And if it says it's 1 inch for tubing, it may be literally 1-inch tubing. In fact, that's very common. When it comes to water pipe or air pipe or whatever, it'll almost always be not that diameter even close. A good example is 3/4 inch tubing is almost exactly 1 inch outside diameter. And 1 1/4 pipe is always larger than that. And that there's only 1 or 2 diameters that have shown up in the quote-unquote standard Schedule 40 pipe, and it happens to show that it used to be based on its inner diameter, 3/4 inch being the good example of this, that it's much more close to 3/4 inch, if you're going to call it, at Schedule 40. And that, in the video, that if you want to get a real shotgun barrel starting point, the blank, you're going to end up doing a little bit of work, because if you get a Schedule 80 pipe, the inner diameter is almost exactly, suspiciously almost exactly, like literally it's probably the basis for it originally, the actual real diameter of a shotgun barrel that's 12 gauge, which is 0.73 inches, or under 3/4 inch. And what's funny is it's so close to it, when you look up the actual bore diameter of some of the older guns, you find out, especially because they were welded up the middle, just like water pipe is, that it was based on making it out of 1/4 inch steel plate that was turned into a pipe by rolling it over a mandrel and welding it. Because that's literally how water pipe and shotgun barrels used to be made. They were made out of the same fucking thing. That's why it's such a commodity item. It's based on, literally, water pipe. Back when it was black powder, they were basing it on the standard at the time for pipe. Little history lesson if you didn't hear it in the last 8 times I've had to say it in a video. So that's all on topic. So what do I get in response? Well, if you build a car, not topic, it's going to cost you 3 times the amount it would if you bought it. But depending on the car, that's totally wrong, and I pointed that out. The other thing is, then the person says, well, I stopped making these because I've made them, because I actually mentioned, I don't know if you've actually made one. It sounds like you've never made a car either. Then the person said, well, I made them, and I made it to where it had a magazine, and it ejected the shells, or cartridges. I don't remember the exact wording. I'll include a link to this shitfest, if you want to, below in the description. So I said, okay, you've made an off-topic claim, but you're claiming you've made a gun and it had a magazine feed. Explain it in the comment section and put up a video. I also checked the channel has videos and has posted before. So, of course, what does the person say? I don't post videos on my hobbies. I don't know how to do YouTube. And then, some hyperbolic deflection. So the latest one is, Waptec thinks that if you can't see something on YouTube, it's unproven. No, I think that your claim you've made exclusively on YouTube is unproven because you won't tell us in any way, shape, or form why I should believe you. Because, and I also said, why don't you make a video explaining this? Because that would be useful, because there are only 1 or 2 videos on YouTube that explain how a magazine-fed gun works at all. And only a very, very small number of them attempt to do it in some simple way. Meanwhile, I'm over here about ready to do a video on a magazine-fed pump-action shotgun, specifically the trench gun that was used in the Second World War and various other times, because it's an extremely interesting design, and I want to do a better version of it, or more accurately, an easier-to-make one. It won't be better. It'll be easier to work with, but can you make it to where it's easier to build and still functions reliably? Not reliably, but really reliably. I already know how to make a shotgun that will work. And it'll be a single shot. I also know how to make one that makes it to where it's a lot easier to use than a slam fire, and it's safer, and it's drop safe. But I haven't done that video at all. This guy's way ahead of me. So prove it, because you made a claim that has something to do. It's actually not really on topic, but at least it'd be useful. And instead of whining and bitching on my channel, you could do something useful and post a video explaining this and include all the safety issues in it. You might have to do more than one video. But because this person weaseled out of it, I said, okay, you've posted an unproven comment, and I don't have to believe you. Everything Waptec, this is all or nothing hyperbolic statement here. Everything that Waptec can't see on YouTube is unproven. Everything you've said is unproven and will remain so because you have refused to prove it. An unproven claim is usually caused by a person going out of their way not to prove their statement and then saying, prove me wrong, which is not how shit works. I don't have to prove that you don't know what you're talking about. You have done so very well. Tell me, what remarkable things have you done that do not appear in a video on YouTube? I'm a contortionist, or I was a long time ago. That's a different website. How many of you have a YouTube channel where you've posted a video on any particular subject? Are there any subjects you're really good at? Anything remarkable that you didn't post a video on? A lot of you are going to say yeah, including channels that never posted anything at all. The majority of people can do something that's kind of useful or talented or interesting that they haven't posted a video on because they simply choose not to, which was your claim. And that's normal. But you made a claim that isn't really extraordinary. It's rather mundane. I made something when I was 17. Okay, what was it? It was this. You didn't tell me the caliber of it. You didn't tell me what kind of magazine it is. The infamous box magazine, or what we now just call the magazine. Or was it tube magazine? Did it use a gravity assist? Was it an inline tube? Was it made for only one type of cartridge? Throw me a bone here, Boopy. And then the next response is, I don't do videos on YouTube, when you obviously do on your channel. So let's get to the useful part of the video. Way late. I'll include that. Just go to the 10-minute mark for information. Today I found out that the Idahoan Show YouTube channel went ahead and tested something so I don't have to. Can you use electrical conduit as a shotgun barrel? The answer is yes, you can. I mean, literally, it worked. It's not the best on earth. It probably would fail. He didn't test it to destruction, which I'm hoping he will. He has made a barrel. But I want him to test it to destruction, because I need to know whether or not that's safe. Not that it can be done. I mean, yeah, that means that you could take the FITOPS, F-I-T-H, forked in the head, ops, perimeter alarm. Obviously, you wouldn't use that as it's made. And you could make an overlapping barrel that goes over it and make it to where you could direct the shotgun blast out of the shotgun blanks in a particular direction to where it sounds more like a shotgun. You'd have to obviously make it into a big pop gun and make sure it's not really a barrel if it's short. If it's long, it would be just legally at that point a shotgun, and you can't rig up a shotgun, a real one, for doing that kind of experiment or for having it as a perimeter alarm. That's why you're not allowed to have a barrel on it. It's not that you're making an illegal weapon, it's that you're using it as a booby trap. You're not allowed to do that. But this does bring up the option of literally using one of those with a cheap hunk of metal tubing all of a sudden, because that one fits better. Or use a 3/4 inch pipe, because it'll fit okay. Or even better, using the 0.810 space ID inner diameter tubing that you can get for making roll cages, and just use that, and suddenly you have a really good mechanism for making a single shot shotgun. You would only be using an aluminum block, but it would fit right. And that would make a test bed for not the barrel, but whether or not the aluminum breech would be safe. It's an overbuilt aluminum breech. That's actually kind of useful, and you can make it a break action where the barrel pops up just exactly the right diameter for a shotgun shell. And you could pull out the shell very easily because part of the rim would be visible, and then put another one and close it. I've thought of doing that, but the most practical mechanical size, because it's easier to cut for a test, would be electrical conduit. And I guarantee you, one person does this, the Idahoan Show, someone else will say, well, it didn't blow up. Let's test it, at a distance. He actually made a gun out of it and fired the damn thing. He did test it, just not totally to destruction, but it did work. So that brings up all sorts of possibilities. I'm just kidding. What you would do is you'd use the electrical conduit like I was thinking of doing. But you would heat it up and roll it through a set of rollers. I'm designing that video as well. To where you shrink it down to where you can make an internal liner for a shotgun out of it. That's what they're good for. I've heard of people doing that, but they don't do video tutorials. If you're not aware of it, the electrical conduit can be annealed and squeezed down to where it will become a shotgun liner. Shotgun liners are insanely expensive things made out of all sorts of exotic materials, but all they do is create choke patterns inside of very large diameter shotgun barrels. And by putting these in instead, you could save a ton of money, and it wouldn't be something that only really expensive skeet shooting guns can work with. The over and unders that are owned by really rich people in Britain who have a permit and everything. Us Americaners, we can make them ourselves then. And I'll have to do a video on it now because that's much more interesting than doing a pump action gun, although I'm trying to get that one done. This guy basically claimed he could make a pump action shotgun and teased me, dirty bitch, about how to do it and didn't provide any proof for it. He did a neener. Because he has no talent and no way of backing up what he said. I'm also going to include a link to a video where someone came up with a 2-part, really functional, spring-loaded, but spring-biased, I'm going to try to improve on because it's a challenge, double-action trigger that used literally just 2 main moving parts. Not as minimal as the one I came up with, but a lot more functional. And it's based on a toy cap gun, apparently. It's the same design I was going to do. Those are the useful links below. So, as I said, skip to the actual description that's useful, and we'll ignore the guy who wouldn't put his money where his mouth is and kept running it anyway. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.